Hey everyone, welcome back to Two Guys and Hockey Talk. Sound like I'm the honky talk man if you ever were a wrestling fan from the 80s and 90s. We have a few kind of glitches that are on the go right now. So my partner in crime and my co-host, Pawel, I'm just waiting in on him, as well as our guest here tonight. So we're just going to kind of ad-lib on the go. Got lots and lots of hockey tents. So if you're not familiar with us and you're tuning in right now, so guys, this is Two Guys in Hockey Talk, and we come on every Wednesday. That's right, every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So you can catch us here with our live show. Just like tonight, you're able to call in. So you can, well, I shouldn't say call in. You can write your comment. You can actually ask a question to our guest or to Pawel, the cat, who is my co-host, or anything along that line. So you're able to do that here tonight, as well as we're going to take you through a plethora of information. You can catch us over at twoguysinhockeytalk.com, as well as on your screen, you'll see there is a QR code. So if it makes it easier for you, just scan that QR code, and you'll be able to come directly to twoguysinhockeytalk.com. There we live throw all our YouTube. So we ask, would you follow us on YouTube? Subscribe to us on YouTube and follow and like, as well as if you're following on Facebook, like and follow, put your notifications on. And if you're following on X at one of our accounts at hockey_2, that's my co-host, Pawel the cat, and or myself at Evan Renaerts. Guys, this is season 7. We are in episode 3. Now, I want to put a big thanks out here, and we got some big, important news that I want to throw up there here today. So right now, guys, we have, by popular demand, no, I'm just joking with you. Right now, what has happened is we have just signed, so Pawel didn't even know this was happening, brand new for him. We just finished it off this week. So not only did we get Flow Hockey to join Puckpedia, JR Web Designs, Penny Billionaires, and now the replanted Kalkaska Battlers are the Northern Michigan Warhounds. But we have the Pro Hockey Group with Scott Buckala, who was a former director of scouting for Florida Panthers up to 2020. Also did some scouting with the Nashville Predators. So their group has now joined in sponsoring the show. So if you guys are looking to get an analysis as fans of the game, you can go to the Pro Hockey Group, go to Puckpedia, and they do both work off of each other as well. And we're looking forward to getting one of their scouts on some point here this year. So isn't that fabulous news? Welcome back, Pawel.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And yes, that is incredible news. I'm so happy we get to partner up with some incredible people across the world of hockey. I apologize. I had some work done on my kitchen today, so of course my Wi-Fi was a little bit wonky because we had to unplug it. But I'm glad to be here on a Wednesday night talking all things hockey. How are you, Evan?
Well, I'll say this. You do look better than when you came on 5 minutes before. You were a little choppy. I felt like you need to kind of shave a bit. But now your hair looks combed. Your beard's kind of fitting in place. You don't look like you're one of those guys from South Park. You now look a guy that's Two Guys in Hockey Talk. So I was just telling everyone that I'm just waiting back. Everything was confirmed. We have Jamie Baskow that is so far, he has never stood us up. So, but I communicated it out to him a little later today, maybe just talked to him a couple days ago. Everything's a go. So Jamie Baskow, Flyers Nitty Gritty. He is a sports journalist, credentialed, and we're hoping to kind of get everything set up so that he will be able to join us. So at some point, we're going to get into some different stuff that we have. We're going to enjoy parts of the show, but we might interrupt it if Jamie jumps on, because he'll just jump on live, and then we'll go at that point. And again, today, guys, if you are following, we'd love you to connect with us at Two Guys in Hockey Talk. Check out all of our articles. Just check the QR code listed above. Use your phone device. Put on, if you're not sure how to do it, you put on your little phone and then take your camera and let it get, and then it will take you right to the site directly. All right. Well, you know what? Let's throw a little bit of a twist into this one here. I didn't send in our scripted notes for tonight, but we haven't had a chance, and I don't know how prepared you came, but we talked last week. Are we prepared to say what we see happening this season in the NHL? Because it's going to be up and going next week. And this is our last chance to kind of give our thoughts and kind of things we're looking to. So maybe let's kind of cover what we see as the top team in all the divisions across the conferences and kind of work around there. And we'll interact with you guys as you guys are connecting with us. Go ahead. So let's get started there, Pawel.
Where did you want to get started? Which team or which division?
Why don't we do this? Why don't we start just because I'm interested.
For sure. Which division and area did you want to start in?
Let's start in the Western Conference.
In and out.
Let's in the Western and go to Central. Let's do Central. How are you doing in there? Are you struggling? Are you cutting in and out, not catching everything I'm saying? We still have continuous internet issues that we're running up against here. So things are looking good online. Not sure what's happening, but maybe Pawel will take a break. I'm not sure. He's just letting me hang it. You notice he's pixelating like South Park again here. So it's just one of those nights, guys. All right. So why don't we do this? It might be me even, but I'm not. You're never sure what's going on. So if you guys are out there in hockey land and you guys are checking it out, if one of us is cutting out, why don't you help us? Right? Why don't you help us? And so let's do this. Let's get started. I definitely want to have a conversation that's just really interesting. So ESPN, great group of people, but ESPN, they specifically, during the baseball game today, they go off and ESPN advertises for the NHL and the upcoming season. And they go back to their reporters and they're like, I don't know nothing about hockey. Do you know anything about hockey? No, I don't know nothing about hockey. And why would you go on and do that? I don't kind of get the understanding and the reason. If you are a provider of the NHL, why would you downplay and allow those broadcasters to talk and actually act like that, right? So that's always an issue that you have to be able to deal with, right? So here we go. All right, you coming in on a different link, bud? Are you in? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I apologize. I was having some technical difficulties with my feed, so I apologize. I won't be able to do as much. So I know you were getting into the ESPN information, and I know we're going to try to start at the Central. So where did you want to begin? Did you want to finish off the ESPN thoughts, or did you want to jump into the Central?
Well, no, let me just ask you the thoughts before we get into kind of the predictions. What's your thought on ESPN broadcasters downplaying and saying they know nothing about the NHL in the middle of a baseball game when ESPN is advertising for the NHL season?
I mean, they're going to do what's best for them and their shareholders and their viewers. And I think what they're going to try to do is play up what brings more eyeballs to their programming, right? And I know they have that big luxurious contract with the NHL, but playoff baseball can be a hot thing right now, especially with the Jays waiting to see whether they're going to face off with the Red Sox and or the Yankees. I mean, there's a lot of great series happening. And I think what it is that they're going to prime whatever is best for them, although they do still need to promote the NHL, because once baseball's done, you got to get into the mid of hockey, right? And people are going to be excited and watching it. And so you want people glued to the screens. So that's just my only thoughts.
So you have no concerns about the professionalism of acting like the game itself when it's being advertised, them coming back and downcutting and acting like it's not even a legit league?
I mean, it's tough to say because, again, the contract's already in place. So if they paid the money for what they want to present and perform, it's not a good look. But, I mean, if they want to continue to do it, then they're going to continue to do it. Hello, Northern Michigan Warhounds. The night is going well. Hope you guys are doing well. But, yeah, that's just my thoughts. I mean, I don't know enough to make a complete judgment call. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just think it's totally unprofessional, and I think that if you really want to make this a go, that you need to make sure your broadcasters, they don't have to talk about a lot. They didn't even have to give acknowledgement to the advertisement. That was a commercial. It was a commercial, and they came back and had to say, I don't even know. I don't know nothing about the game or anything. Oh, well, let's get back to baseball. it's just like, I don't know, man. That's pretty poor. They might be good at baseball, but I think that they need to become a little more professional, and ESPN should actually hold them up. So
I do wonder also what is the role of advertisers in this position, because if they know that they're able to get their message and or product or service out more quickly, they're going to go to the ones where, again, more people are watching that said sport, right? So
that's true.
But
okay, that sounds good, man. Why don't we get into this now? Let's
Okay.
connect in. And maybe we'll kind of bring it up a little bit closer here to kind of get you in so we can see you. Why don't we do this? Let's look at the Central Division. All right. There's been quite a few changes. There is a bunch of good teams fighting over there. Tell me who you see as the dominant team. We don't need to get into predictions. I mean, it's a long season. But who do you see as the dominant team, and who do you see falling back? Let's just do that for each division.
All right. Well, so I think it's going to be a battle between two teams, maybe three, for the top of the Central, which I believe is between Dallas, Colorado, and Winnipeg. I only say that because Winnipeg took a little bit of a step back losing the Ehlers, but also they overexceeded last year, winning the President's Trophy and being as successful as they were. Connor Hellebuck's workload was a lot. They changed up a little bit of their personnel. They're losing Adam Lowry for the beginning of the first 2 weeks, if not months of the season. Taves is already injured now. I believe Nemestikov went out with an injury yesterday. So you're losing a few bodies. Colorado, they've got a chip on their shoulders. They want something to prove, and you can never bet against McCarr and McKinnon. Landeskog is a big factor given that he's coming back healthy and he looked great in preseason. But also they've really bolstered and solidified their back end in terms of their netting. So I believe now they have Blackwood signed long term. They're set there. And Dallas, I mean, this is one full year of Rantanen, no distractions, no trade rumors. He's ready to play his game. The one question mark, again, still of course, Jason Robertson, what's going to happen there? But Jake Ottinger, he's got a chip on his shoulder. Everything would happen with Peter DeBoer. He's going to get hungry. He wants to prove himself, not only for that, but because both Hellebuck and him are probably going to be competing for the U.S. men's Olympic goaltender position, right? Most likely Hellebuck gets it, but again, barring any weird things happening, Ottinger, he could be the backup. He could be coming in and helping out. And those three teams are really in the mix. Everyone else kind of there at the back. Now, I like Minnesota, but they're kind of middle back now. They did do the big deal. We could talk about it later with Kaprizov. But, do they have enough depth? And is Gustafsson enough of a goaltender to get them over the hump, right? We know that they can potentially make the playoffs. Do they have enough depth? And will Kaprizov stay healthy along with the rest of the team? Because, they've lost a lot of manpower due to injuries. Nashville, I know they have a lot to prove, and I know Barry Trotz talked about how, they want to prove all the critics wrong. I still don't see that team being elite. I think they're going to be in a rebuild, and I think it'd be better for Nashville to try to potentially go for Gavin McKenna. Same thing goes for Chicago. I know you want to surround Bedard, but if you can get McKenna next year, I mean, that's going to be a deep, deep team. And who else is left in the Central?
Who do you got? You got St. I'm not sure if you said anything around St. Louis.
Utah going to be St. Louis, Utah, and Minnesota are those middle of the pack teams, and I think that those are going to be competing for that wild card position, right? So that's kind of what they're going to do. Now, I do like the Cam Fowler.
All right. Well, it looks like my co-host is dealing with a lot of difficulty. So let me continue on then. When he goes to actually get himself back in, one thing that we've actually recognized is that Winnipeg is going through a lot of changes. I do think Dallas is the team that will probably stand atop everything that we're talking about here. Okay, so Dallas would be the team that I would actually be looking at right now. And Dallas would be the one that I actually think is the most well-rounded, has the most things going. I think they're going to learn from last year's previous playoff history. I think there's a lot of those things going on good on their part. I do think Colorado will make a push. I just don't feel like they have enough depth on their defense. And yes, they had some good projects in Wedgwood and Blackwood down in goal, but I feel like they need a little more. That potentially, I need to see 2 straight years with both those guys performing like they did last year for me to say they're going to challenge for the top spot. They're definitely going to be a strong playoff team. But I will say, I think that when we're kind of looking at it overall, Minnesota, they're going to be right there for the year. Chicago is definitely going to be on the bottom again. They just have not provided Bedard with enough around him. And I think, like Pawel, that you said, I don't think that they're really too worried about it this year, and maybe even one more year. What I'm hearing is they're going to see how well the players play this year, how well Nazar takes onto his game before they start worrying too much about signing some bigger players to start. I'm a little worried that, like the Oilers of the past or the Sabres of the past, when they have a lot of young players, they're not surrounding them with enough good, skilled, and talented veterans, not just experienced, but good and skilled. So that's kind of where I'm sitting in the Central. So let's move over to the Pacific. Kind of give me your top guy over in the Pacific,
All right.
And let's just kind of see what you got there.
For sure. So I believe in the Pacific, it's down to 2 teams battling it for the top spot, and that's the Vegas Golden Knights versus the Edmonton Oilers. Really, those are the 2 top-heavy, very well-rounded teams. Are there holes in both teams? For sure, but those are teams that I think are going to compete for the top in the Pacific. Then you have the next little bit, and I think it's between LA and Vancouver. Calgary's up there a little bit, although I'm a little bit worried about where their depth scoring is going to come from. But LA, again, one more year of Kopitar. He's getting older. You need the young guys to step away. Ken Holland has come in and kind of made a stamp on his team. He's put a few veterans there, Dumoulin and Ceci, which I know a lot of people aren't fan of. But again, he's going to try his best to kind of get that team up with veterans. Corey Perry is already injured, so you see that that's a big loss for them. And then Vancouver really, I think, can be third, if not a wild card team, because everything that went wrong last year did. And if you can have a healthy Demko and Quinn Hughes playing the way he did like last year, especially since it's going to go into a second potential contract extension next year, even though he's got 2 more years left, he's going to take this team on his shoulders and play elite, right? Plus, they have some good depth there. Now, they did lose Pia Suter, and you want Elias Pettersson, who has beefed up, to step it up and be that top line center after that whole debacle with JT Miller. This is his team now as well, too. He's got to step up. And I really like what essentially on the back end and their goaltending Vancouver have, but I still think that everything has to go right. Now they have a new coach. We'll see how that impacts their gameplay. And then after that, I really am interested to see what happens with Anaheim, because we know that Pat Verbeek talked about them being a playoff team, pushing for that. They have the pieces. They just signed McTavish to that nice lucrative deal, so they have their second line center. You have your veterans like Gudis and Truba. You have Dostal in net, who's really good. Gibson is gone, so that is no longer an issue to that nags over the team. And a fascinating thing with this team, Joe Quenneville is back officially as the head coach in the league. How will his coaching style impact the Ducks? Will it be enough to help the team push forward? Like, will they get that coaching bump, as they said? And then really Calgary, again, a couple of middle of the pack, and I really think Calgary shouldn't expect playoffs. I mean, they can go for it because Dustin Wolf played incredible, but I still worry, who's your backup beyond Dustin Wolf? And is that going to be too much of a workload for him? You got Captain Stein, and I'm hoping that things improve there in the center, but really scoring is what you need from Calgary. And then, of course, you have the exciting San Jose Sharks. And although I know that they not do a lot, I see having a few excited. I talked with Max Miller on episode 1 with some of the kids, including the second year for Celebrini. Your thoughts?
Okay, and folks, we do apologize. Pawel's just running into some technical issues just around the Wi-Fi connections and stuff like that. This happens occasionally, and when you run a live, we used to be able to tape this, and then we didn't like it, or we could edit or go to an advertise. Like, could you imagine now if we were pre-doing this and then we have a segment that we go to, we'd be actually able to actually cut it out like it's a perfect line. But the difference is you can't have live. So, for example, Zell's calling in right now. She says, big mistake moving Seelofs. And I think that both Pawel and I have always agreed about that. I think that Seelofs is going to actually be a very big win for Pittsburgh. In fact, look, I look this year, look at Jari. If Jari can, one way or the other, whether he performs well or doesn't, it's going to mean whether they pay to move him out or whether they decide that they can get something for him. So that's what I think is going to happen. But anyway, so I just wanted to hit to that live there for you. And then I had a text come in that had asked me and said, what about them Vegas? I see you're wearing a Vegas Golden Knights. Yes, Vegas Golden Knights, baby. And we're going to get into a little bit more stuff, but because I'm going to give you, I actually think the Vegas Golden Knights are going to win the division. That I do think they're going to be the ones on top, only because Edmonton's going to be playing a little bit with chemistry. There's a lot of distractions, as much as Connor McDavid says there isn't. I get he's got a plan what he's doing and where he's going, but they got young people. I think that may hurt them early on. My prediction is I think Vegas is going to come out flying and get a lot of wins early. That's going to keep them in. I think it'll be close, but I still see Vegas doing it. And can I just mention, I haven't seen it mentioned anywhere, and it could be because it's not available to practice till November. So I did put it out at Revan Ev. But Jamie Basco, who's our guest and is late. Jamie, where are you tonight, buddy? We had confirmed everything. I'm guessing that something came up and he just totally forgot. So we'll reschedule probably another time unless he jumps on in the next 15 minutes, because we all know, Jamie, man, you like to talk and you like to talk your Flyers. So, but anyway, can I just say that Jamie tweeted out that he actually thinks that it looks like Carter Hart is going to Vegas, that it looks like it could be a done deal. I mentioned this. So 1 week after the five guys were acquitted, it was 1 week after that, I put it out there on a post. I had different people mentioning to me that, no, it's not accurate. There's a reason. It was issues around Foley with some different charges or things that were laid or scandals. None of that is actually to be proven, essentially. And so I never thought that was going to be an issue. And I actually know on good, they actually went to Aiden Hill, had some conversations, and a couple other players before they were actually going to do something like this. So I'm not getting into all the other conversations, but essentially that's kind of what we're actually looking at. So, hey guys, just want to remind you again, tonight, our hosts, our sponsors are brought to you Puckpedia. So if you want game analysis, you want transactions, you want even a weekly podcast, go to Puckpedia. If you want good music, electronic hard rock band, Penny Billionaires with their song Invincible. That is our intro and our outro song that we use every week. And the Northern Michigan Wolfhounds. Guys, make sure that you check them out. They are in the American Premier Hockey League Association. JR Web Designs, great. They'll craft you up a website. They are also our sponsor for websites. So just like to mention as well, the Pro Hockey Group. If you like scouting analysis, the same information for pros and amateurs alike. So it's been run by former director of scouting, and that is Scott Bacala, who actually was director of head scouting with the Florida Panthers and those, and Flow Hockey for all your junior hockey leagues. You guys want to follow AHL, ECHL, it's all there. All right, so let's just kind of get back here. So you were asking me, so I think Vegas is going to top with Edmonton challenging. Calgary, I actually think they're going to be a lot further down this year. But San Jose will be on the bottom, but I do not see this a good year for Seattle again. I feel like they're trying to middle. They're trying to meddle in the middle, and it's just not a good spot. If I was them, I would just tear it down and work with a couple of your key players just for a year or two and move on. Just move on, and you're going to need to use the drafting system. So that's kind of where I kind of stand on there. So why don't we do this? Let's take a break. We've been kind of going some different areas. I want us to go over to, I'm not sure. Do you have your information, buddy, when we're talking? Do you have your information when it comes to some of our script here tonight, that our topics we're covering?
Not immediately. I will get it. Sorry. I'm working on some
Okay.
technical difficulties.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. So, what we're gonna do, and then I'll bring them up, and then Pawel can kind of chat about them, guys. Why don't we bring to you our next section here? We actually want to go to, guys. This is one that has been famous. We haven't had it out for a while, but what we want to give to you is through Puckpedia. We bring you by the numbers. Puckpedia, the ultimate source for your NHL salary cap information, player contracts, team cap hits, transaction news, and injury news.
By the numbers.
Okay, so we didn't get a chance to talk about. There's been lots going on. The reason the Kaprizov, and we can talk about this stuff later, but some of these signings and stuff, there is a salary cap spike, buddy. The NHL and the NHLPA, they agreed on these projections over the next few seasons. And so basically, the cap jumps. I want you guys to think about this now. It's going to jump. This year, it's $95.5 million. Next year, it's going to be $104 million. And the following year, about $113.5. And you say, how do you know that? Well, the reason is because of the revenue streams. So when revenue goes up, you can only max go up a certain amount based on how much revenue. Well, there's more than enough revenue, in fact, even higher, but they can only go up by percentage points. And the percentage points means that they're maxing for 3 years. So that was this year. And the next two, that's an automatic. I think it's only going to go higher. And we're going to have this rapid escalation. How do you think contract negotiations are going to work in this next year to 2 years, Pawel?
Well, I mean, I've heard it talked about how, a lot of teams want to hold the line because there is a hard cap in place, so they want to limit it. Although, of course, revenues have gone up, and we kind of know the trajectory of where it's going. The problem is that, Kirill Kaprizov, he's more valuable to the team, to the Minnesota Wild, than other players are, like a Kyle Connor to the Winnipeg Jets, like Alex Tuck, who are both up for a contract, even in Jack Eichel. And the thing is like, you look at past history, you look at performance, you look at all these numbers, you look at analytics, and you determine, okay, what's best for us. But you also have an internal cap. People know Buffalo has an internal cap. So owners will only sign off on these big amounts of contracts if they agree to it and they believe that this is good. If not, they'll let them walk. You look at Marner now for what he got in comparison to Kaprizov. That's a steal, right? And he even took less than what Toronto could have offered him, because I think Toronto was willing to offer him 13 plus. So really, I think what it's going to do is it's going to build up a lot of the contracts moving forward, especially next year. So it's going to be an interesting summer for us as fans and as pundits. But I also believe that a lot of guys that are up next year will say, well, I may not be 17 or 16 million, but I'm worth at least 10 to 12, right? You look at Martin Necas in Colorado. What's he going to say now? And I'm sure Colorado's kicking themselves for not having Rantanen for 11.5 or just under 12 now, right? Because they could have got him, and here we are at the cap with what's gone up. Now, it's possible that at the moment, Kirill Kaprizov is an outlier. And again, Bill Guerin has done well with other players like Matt Boldy and Gustafson and some others. So he's able to make it work. And it's next year that this cap takes effect. So it's not like it's coming up this year. He's still got that 9.5 coming up this year. But really, what does this say about players like Draisaitl, like Kucherov, right? Like, who want to get paid or got paid, if you think that they could have held off for just a little bit and got probably $15-16 million, right? I mean, they're worth it. They have that credentials, but really, I think it's going to continue to go up because players believe they are owed what they are. Now, one example, Evan, that we went through this, and of course there was an outlier of COVID, was the Toronto Maple Leafs. They paid their core four exactly what they believed they were worth, although not much transpired with what they were able to perform. Now, they did make the playoffs, but they had a hard time getting through and going on a deep run. But they paid Marner, they paid Tavares, they paid Matthews, and they paid Nylander. And I remember people saying it's not going to work, and it didn't work. But now we're going to get to the point where there's going to be multiple potential $10 million plus players on teams that win a Stanley Cup. We've already had one with 10 million with Jack Eichel. It's Sergei Bobrovsky, although I know he's with the no state tax in Florida, he got up there and he's up next year. But really what it comes down to is that players want to get paid. They are, out of all the sports leagues in the world, the least amount paid as athletes. And I believe that they want their fair share of the pie, although the cap makes it very hard. So there's going to be a lot of capologists who are going to have to try to figure this out in order to make this work. But that's just my thoughts.
Well, and I think it's interesting. If we actually think about it, I'm just going to bring up on the screen here for you guys again. Just if you guys actually think about this right now, right? We got Puckpedia. Puckpedia, guys. You want your capology? You can get it at Puckpedia, and as well. Anything that you want to do, if you want to play with numbers and stuff. Well, one of the things that I think that we've run into, which I actually find very interesting, guys, is we are running into a time that is a very different time in dealing with the cap. And the reason I say that, you're moving all over on me. You're messing my screen up. It's not looking good. It's all good. It's all good. But I think what we're recognizing is teams adjusted to the flat cap, and because they adjusted to the flat cap, I got it, buddy. I got it. I've been controlling the whole thing, and now I'm good. I'm good. But because we got a flat cap, everybody adjusted their teams and their salaries, and everyone goes, well, they haven't won a cup and they haven't done this. Edmonton tried to base around that flat cap. They didn't have the preparation going in. There was a couple other teams. In fact, Colorado was another team like that. The only team that's really adjusted good on the fly has been Dallas, the New York Rangers, and believe it or not, whether you like them or not, Toronto still has done good at adjusting. And then, of course, everyone knows the Vegas Golden Knights. They've been one of the best at actually being able to do that. So I saw, Zill, that you had put up that you love the fact Martin and Eichel on the line. That should be interesting. And then you had also mentioned about they should permanently move away. Well, actually, get ready, because this season, Chris Knobloch has already made mention. They will start the season together because they're a stronger team, and I think they want more chemistry and more opportunity. They learned last year playing away. Sometimes having them together allowed other guys to step up another level. But again, every team is slightly different how they're kind of managing that now. So let me just say this. The Athletic did a survey of NHL players, Pawel, before we wrap up by the numbers. And they registered 68% were expecting, beginning this year, 68% saw more short-term contracts between 3 and 5 years because of the cap flux. And this was another stat that they got. 42% saw that they should take the Norris Trophy and split it. So there's an offensive and a defensive defenseman to recognize the shutdown specialist. So your thoughts on that, and then we'll wrap up by the numbers.
I'm open to the offensive and defensive award. I think it's long overdue. I think you can name it, I don't know, like Nick Lindstrom, like whoever you want, right? Or the Bobby Orr Award, right? Like the most offensive defenseman out in the league. So I'm all on board on there. I do like the idea of, as Zilstra indicated, Eichel with Marner, because they're both playmakers. So we'll be interested to see who's the one that puts the puck in the net. And as for contracts, I mean, this is fascinating for us to learn. I know I was dabbling through Puckpedia this past week, and I commented on their post about how, you know, there's this new salary cap, how to play around it, what's going on there, all the numbers. But again, as I reiterated before, the value Kaprizov has to Minnesota means much more than what people realize. I think the owner indicated, Greg Leopold indicated how he gets butts in seats. And you cannot underestimate the value of a business when you're getting people in your building, selling tickets, making Minnesota hockey exciting, and making your team competitive and people coming out, right? Like that's the whole point of the game, right? Now you want success in the postseason, but you have a long 82 and next year 84 game season. You want to sell those tickets. You know, you got to sell 41 tickets in your building and get people in there.
Okay, guys, there you go. That's it for By the Numbers. Puckpedia, the ultimate source for your NHL salary cap information, player contracts, team cap hits, transaction news, and injury news.
By the numbers.
All right, let's move over. Let's try to do this in about 3 minutes each.
Sure.
Tell me, let's move over to the Atlantic. You got Boston, Buffalo, Detroit, Florida, Montreal, Ottawa, Tampa, and Toronto. Essentially, take two teams. Tell us the team or the competition at the top and who's going to be sitting at the bottom from what you're seeing going into this season.
All right, at the top, I see Toronto potentially making a run again, provided that they have steady goaltending and no injuries. Now, we know Joseph Will is out for an indefinite amount of time for personal reasons, but you just signed Stolarz to that very 3-year by $4.5 million contract. He played well last year. He even played well in the postseason until the Bennett incident. So I like what I saw from him. You got now no Martyr distraction, so no quote-unquote core four. You've got a healthy and reinvigorated Austin Matthews after everything he had to go through last year. Same with William Nylander. John Tavares, who is still going to be a leader on that team, but he doesn't have to play that top role. You've got a lot of young guys coming in, including Easton Cowan, who's going to try to make his impact and maybe the fourth line. We'll see. Scott Lawton will be an impactful player, third line center most likely, but I mean, he can shift around. Nick Robertson's the only question, and their back end I really like. I think it's underrated. I think people give it too much flack, but really, if you think about it, you know, you've got Chris Tanev and Morgan Riley up there, and you know Tanev is a block machine, and Morgan Riley can put up a lot of points, especially if he's on the top power play unit. And I like the rest of that. Jake McCabe, an elite player there. He re-signs. Really, I think it's Oliver Ekman-Larsson still there. I like what I have from Toronto. As for the bottom, that's a tough, because I find that this is one of the toughest divisions in hockey. I don't know. I'm having a hard time because I could see 5 teams making the postseason from that division. You know, one team that I'm kind of uncertain about, although I don't think they'll be at the bottom, is Detroit. I don't know what's happening with Detroit. I don't know what they're going to be able to do. I know Boston most likely. I have a hard time with that setup. Now, I know a lot of guys have to step up, and I would love to see Dylan Larkin in the postseason. But really, you know, you bring in John Gibson, sure, but you also have a plethora of goalies. But really, like, what are you bringing to the table? And really, who's going to stand out there? Moritz Seider, like, he needs to have a bang out year. But you still have Justin Hall, right? Like, or did he get waived, right? So really, there's some questionable things for Detroit, and they're up and down, right? They go through stretches where they look like an unbelievable team, and then there's times where it's just like, oh, you know, I could eat crow next year, and I'll be happy to do so just to see the Detroit Red Wings in the postseason. But I really still believe that's a team that's going to be kind of at the bottom. I can't see Buffalo being any worse. They're going to be middle of the pack. Montreal and Ottawa, we saw what they could do last year. They're bringing in a lot of young guys. Tampa Bay, you know, they're getting older, but you never discount Vasilevsky and Kucherov and Hedman. And so really that's who I kind of see as that thing. And then I don't count out Florida, even with everything they've lost recently with Barkov. So,
hey, Key Williams. Hey, how you doing, Key? Been a while. She is a major Philly fan of all things sports, especially football. But she loved her Flyer hockey. Key, just so you know, Jamie Vaskow, Flyers Nitty Gritty, was scheduled with us. Apparently, it looks like he won't be joining us. I don't have word on that. It's not like a release that a source told me, other than the source has not responded back himself. Everything was planned, and so something just must have came up. We must have missed it or missed the clock. I remember the one time I think he was taking his wife out or something, and so he wasn't sure if he'd get back. I don't know. Maybe I got the wrong guest mixed up. So if that was you, Jamie, my apology. But yeah, hey, Keen, nice to see you. Again, guys, I just kind of want to actually remind everybody here. So again, so I just kind of want to make mention, every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. right here. We are live show. So that means if we got glitches, if we got whatever, this is where you're going to find them. But you can actually comment or ask questions to our guests or to ourselves. And again, with our sponsors, we have the Penny Billionaires, Electronic Hard Rock Band. We still have the Northern Michigan Warhounds, which is the transplanted Kalkaska Battlers of the American Premier Hockey League, the men's senior semi-pro league, and then as well as JR Web Designs, who designs our site, can do something for you. And then this year, 2 new sponsors, Flow Hockey. Woo! By the way, get your junior hockey fix, guys. Get your SHL, Swedish League. Get your AHL and your ECHL fixes with Flow Hockey. And then as well as Puckpedia is back for another year. And we have now the Pro Hockey Group, all your pro and amateur scouting bases with that. So again, I'm just going to pull that back off so everyone kind of knows what's actually going on. So I was laughing, buddy, because I had asked you 3 minutes. That was 5. And you gave me 5 teams. And I had asked just for 1 or 2 at the top and 1 or 2 at the bottom, kind of work around. And you analyzed almost all of them. So that's funny. You just can't.
Well, you asked me for 2. And also, he's asking about Carter Hart to Vegas, and you alluded to that earlier. It sounds like he will sign a contract, but he's not eligible to play until December 1st. So
yes,
that's kind of what it is.
Practicing in November, but he can't actually play till December. But if you do follow Jamie Vascow, he's actually on top of it right now. Because, of course, being a former Flyer, you will be able to get information from over there. So, no, that's excellent questions. So now, let me just kind of say, when we're talking about numbers, I'm going to say this easy enough. I have a different take than you. I think this is the weakest the Atlantic has been in decades. Boston is kind of in the middling pack. Buffalo is trying to make a push up top. Detroit's been in the middle. Florida has lost Kachuk and Barkov. By the way, I have someone that has told me they've had injuries much like Barkov have gone through in hockey, a pro player, and they have told me that they can get back early, and they see that this will not be a replacement player being brought in to replace Barkov because they need him for the playoffs. So that he could be back a month before the playoffs that's just what they're telling me. I don't know how legit. I don't know. I'm not a doctor around it. But Florida, I think they'll be a 600 hockey club. Montreal, they're going to be an interesting team to watch, but they're not top elite yet. Ottawa is working the same way. I think Tampa is the darling of the Atlantic this year. I think Tampa will be the powerhouse. And I do think that Toronto is taking a step back. I really do with Marner, but because it's a weak division this year, and that's my opinion, not all your opinions. I think that Toronto will probably be in the top 3 still, but they will not be at the top of the division. So having said that, let's move ourselves over and go to the Metropolitan. I think this is a dogfight. All right. So again, I'll mention the teams just to help. Yeah, Carolina, Columbus, Jersey, the Islanders, the Rangers, the Flyers, the Penguins, and the Capitals. Most of those teams have good chance to get there. Maybe only 2 are out of it. Give us your take in the next 3-4 minutes.
I think the 2 teams that really stick out in this division are Carolina, who potentially can run away with this division, and New Jersey Devils. Now, New Jersey, of course, barring any injuries, and they now signed Luke Hughes, as we indicated earlier on the show. It looks like they have the opportunity to really make an impact, especially with a healthy Jack Hughes, as well as a healthy Dougie Hamilton. Although I wouldn't be surprised if Dougie Hamilton would be on the trade block, potentially to be moved, given now that they've signed Luke Hughes, to that big contract. So we'll see what happens there. Really, Columbus, I liked the story last year, and this year there's no pressure on them. They're going to try to compete for a wild card position in my mind, and I think potentially they're the one team that could outdo it. I know Jamie Vasco is not on tonight. We're going to chat Flyers. I don't think the Flyers are making the postseasons. I know they've had a lot of changes. I'm still very uncertain about their goaltending. Samuel Ersson hasn't really proven much. Zegras will be an interesting addition. I'm wondering what that's going to look like and how he's going to fit under the system for Tocchet. I like Michkov, but this is only his 2nd year, so we're going to see how he looks because he's really bulked up, and it'll be interesting to see if he can really make that impact. The Islanders, again, goaltending and injuries is one thing, and where's their scoring come from? I think it's Duclair that's still off on a personal leave until he figures it out. I like Schaefer, but again, he didn't play a lot in junior, so let's hope he stays healthy because this is now playing against men. I have liked Evan, what I've told you before on episodes, what I've seen from him in the preseason. But remember, preseason's still a little bit less intense than the regular season. So I worry that he is going to have a hard time following up on that. And again, it's his first year. He's got to get adjusted to it. But really, a lot of those guys that they have on the island are on expiring contracts, right? And what are you doing? Like, are you rebuilding with Bo Horvat, who's around 30 years old, and you just signed him to that tent? Gabriel Pajot, are you keeping him or trading him at the deadline? You already got rid of Brock Nelson. What other players are going to go? I think Islanders are going to be sellers, and I wouldn't be surprised if they can sell off a few pieces to build for the future and go after Gavin McKenna or a top 3 pick again, because that would be very beneficial to them. The Rangers, I think, should be a playoff team. The noise should be quiet. Although I did see that JT Miller was nagging some kind of injury, nothing serious, upper body after a recent practice. But he's going to come in and really impact that team and make an identity. So I like that. And I think when you have Igor Shesterkin in the back, you should be able to compete. And don't count out Adam Fox for another Norris-like season, right? People forget how good this guy is. Right. And especially now that, Trouba's gone, Ryan Lindgren's gone, you've got Fox who's going to have to step up and be that top line defenseman. Right. So that's what I like for the Rangers, kind of that potentially 3rd, 4th position. And then really, who else is left in that division? Washington. I liked Washington. Ovi's getting a little older. I think he could, they could compete for a wild card position again. I mean, they had a great year last year. And now that the goal scoring thing is gone, and he's going to continue to put up points, I like what Spencer Carberry has done with that team. The one thing I would say is that beyond Ovi, where is that scoring coming from? You need that from that team, from your wingers specifically, right? And I know you have Poitras and some others that are going to be able to put the puck in the net. But I'm interested to see what happens with Washington. And then, of course, Pittsburgh, they're a rebuild team. They're selling. They're the only team in the NHL that's selling. And it'll be interesting to see if Evgeny Malkin heads over to Florida, if Sidney Crosby officially gets moved, or what happens there. But you'll see a lot of movement from Pittsburgh and a lot of young guys come up. But I see Pittsburgh being bottom of the barrel.
Okay. Interesting. Again, you kind of went through all the teams, but thank you. I'm like, just give us like 3 or 4 at the top, the bottom, and you just keep crashing through them. So, guys, this is preseason mode for both.
My bread and butter.
We try to get this in. It is a lot of stuff to kind of banter around. So I'm going to keep my part a little bit shorter. I'm just trying to keep things on track here. So we can go over some updates for you around some of the NHL teams as well before we go out with some hockey history today. Can I just mention that I do think this could be the year that the Hurricanes actually take the title. I think they're standing good. They're looking good. They're skating well. I like a lot of things I'm seeing, the way the team is built still. Columbus, the great story last year. I still think they're in development mode. Jersey, I'm always worried about injuries. That seems to always hit them every year. So guys like Ray, if you're listening, you guys get the injury bug often. Now, something interesting you said, maybe they're trying to go for it with the Islanders and they like to get something like Gavin McKenna. I just want to say they were lucky to win the lottery. They were a very high team that barely missed, just like the Rangers in the Capo Caco years. But I don't see them low enough to get a chance, but unless they won the lottery again, but maybe they won the 2nd place in the lottery. But could you imagine if they could get Keaton Bearhoff, that big boy, number 2 overall, even if they can't get the number 1, or they go to Roadbrook, or we'll get into that next week and get into some other players that as I bring out my Revs top 15 for the first time this year. So anyway, I think that they're just not a playoff team this year. And I'm gonna go on record and say I don't think the Rangers make the playoffs this year. I don't think the Rangers make the playoffs. I actually think that the Islanders will fight them for that wild card, is what I think. And Washington, you did mention maybe wild card again. You might have mistaken there because last year they won, did they not, the division? They were on top. They were I thought the President's Trophy winners, unless I'm mistaken.
No, they were second. Winnipeg won the President's Trophy.
Okay, well, you had them in a wild card this year as opposed to last year. They were second overall.
This year I have them in a wild card.
So you think they're going to go from second overall, one of the best teams in the league, top of the thing?
The only reason I say that is last year I said they wouldn't make the playoffs at the beginning of season 6, and then they ended up being second in the league. So clearly, I have to say the opposite for Washington to make it. So Washington,
now this year they're not going to make it.
That's what I intended.
It's all good.
I will also say that you indicated that Ovi wouldn't score last year and beat Gretzky's record. So here we are. We both make mistakes.
This is an interesting little debate because you're comparing. You said this year. You said acted like they never won anything last year, barely. And you did talk about Ovi last year, but now this year you're talking about they'll maybe make the wild card again. Which is really weird, and that's a different comparison to me saying not making 50 when he only made a few more than 50. So I don't think the comparison, and I kind of held to that. So I like you to hold to your wild card only position for the rest of the season, like I did. I held to my beliefs all year long. So if they start winning well, you got to keep saying they're only going to be a wild card. That will show you have the same integrity. Okay. Anyway. Flyers and the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to be on the bottom, and I think Pittsburgh, like it or don't like it, this is going to be their chance for a top 2 for Gavin McKenna and or Keaton Bearhoff. So I know some people wouldn't like it if Gavin McKenna went there. They think it was a conspiracy, but I think it's very, very possible. So essentially, I'm just going to come back to it. I think that you're dealing with Tampa, Carolina, the top 2 teams, and I think you're dealing basically with Vegas, and I think you're dealing with Dallas as the top 4 teams in all the divisions this year. So, all right, guys. Well, let's move over and go to a different segment here, just because we're gonna run out of time soon. So I want to get to a few things in our segment that we call Around the Rink. All right, just a couple things I want to touch in. We're going to touch in on just a short little couple tidbits. This won't be a long segment. OHL, PWHL. Do you want to cover the PWHL, the takeover tour, and the possible expansion?
Yeah, so they are expanding. It's going to year 3 for the PWHL. They are growing, and as many as 4 potential new markets are on the horizon, which could be as early as next season, although there's no timeline set, which is really great because the game is growing. However, I always caution too fast of an expansion because then, of course, you're oversaturating the market. You're not building up that loyal fan base. And so we love the PWHL. We want to support them. We want to make sure it gradually grows, right? Because if you start putting too many teams at once, it's going to be chaotic. I mean, if it works, great. But you want to make sure you have that build up. So that's my only thing. But I'm looking forward to watching some of the games, especially since now some of these women are going to be competing for the Olympic teams coming up next year in Milan, Italy. So you're going to be watching some players who potentially could be elite, and I'm looking forward to seeing that.
So while we're on that, just before I go over to the NCAA here on some news. The takeover tour, so it's featuring Edmonton, Calgary, Hamilton, Halifax, and the only American city is Denver. Do you think of those 5, they're the top selections right now, possibly for those 4, or like what's your thinking on here? Or unless you've heard something that I haven't. Everything's so quiet. I'm not hearing a whole lot. I hear Denver. That's the only thing I've heard that is a good, legit shot.
I think Calgary was one we discussed last season that there was a really good push for it. And I believe that was one that like really has a lot of traction and potential to do well. especially now since I think there's some conversations now. I have a few people I've connected in Calgary with about potentially having that opportunity when their new arena opens up, because that would allow them to play both alongside the Calgary Flames fans in their new Calgary, whether it's called the Stampede Arena or whatever it's going to be. So that would be great. The other one I believe we heard a while back, and maybe Denver is a newer one that I've heard, but I thought I heard Detroit as well, considering opening up a team and having one there. But we'll see. I think Calgary, out of all of those, would have the most likely opportunity. And I believe we talked with Tom Gazzola of Oilers Nation 2 seasons ago about an Edmonton team, and he indicated that there's no talks right now at that point. I think it was a year and a half ago, but he did indicate that there are people who would be interested, who have deep pockets, would be willing to come on the show. So you guys can go check out that episode. It's on our website with Tom Gazzola.
Yeah, no, it's and I put it back up here. Zill kind of mentioned they need to alter their expansion draft. It was really ridiculous, the last one. I don't recall that, Zill, how they went about their expansion draft recently. So, so maybe just put a quick mention in what your thoughts are. Yeah, so, and I am worried about the watering down. I think that they need Calgary and Edmonton both if they're going to make women's hockey successful. But I can't see Calgary doing it before their new arena. I could see it going in time. I think if they do Calgary and Edmonton in 2 years, and then do, say, Denver and another team, maybe. And, they didn't mention it on the comeback tour, but I hear a lot of rumors. They're just rumors, just speculation, but that Quebec City may actually want a women's hockey team to put in the Videotron giant arena. So that would be an interesting piece. So let me just say something interesting. So, guys, Josh was on last week, and he was talking to us a little bit about Gavin McKenna and the North American Hockey League, where he is in the NA3. But we did talk about McKenna. So this Friday, if you go to Flow Hockey, you can pick up Penn State and watch them against Arizona State. But the NHL, they must really love Gavin McKenna, guys, because they have announced a broadcast partnership with Arizona State University as the key, and the National Collegiate Hockey Conference. So of all the conferences in the NCAA, they have one, the National Collegiate Hockey Conference, and this will make Gavin McKenna's NCAA, because, of course, being in the NCHC and against Arizona State, his debut is going to be available worldwide on NHL YouTube and also broadcast on the NHL Network. So if you're American and you get the NHL Network, you should be able to get the debut of Gavin McKenna. So that is an interesting twist. What say you, per se, right? I mean, wow. And then just 2 quick news piece. Sudbury Wolves, if you have not heard, they have a new arena coming. Pawel, it's only going to cost in the OHL for the Sudbury Wolves $200 million for a major junior hockey.
Chump change.
Yeah, chump change for those guys.
Chump change.
That just shows you how much the players do not make and why they are going to the NCAA and getting some nil, which means the nil funding is name, image, and licensing. It's a new thing in the NCAA for those not familiar. And then there has been quite a few players that are making a change over to U Sports. So if you're American, the U Sports is the colleges, the universities in Canada. So it's university sports. They call it U Sports across Canada. And so Lucas Villeneuve, who is the latest now to jump from the Q over to U Sports, but it is his 20-year-old season. And it's starting to look like this becomes an alternative at 20 years old, because a lot of 20-year-olds are no longer going to be playing with a lot of the juniors, looks like, in Major Junior. And so he looks to be the odd man out. And instead of playing Junior A, why not just head into U Sports and start taking advantage of those college years already paid, which I think is a wonderful path. If you're at 20, unless you really want to keep pushing it, it's time. Let's go get your education. Let's go find your career in placing, right? So that I guess that would be my thought. Like, it's okay, to actually go in. So, all right, guys, that's Around the Rink. Well, before I go into my hockey history, why don't we just don't have time for all the extra stuff because we did the divisions and stuff. And Pavel took up all the time covering every single team. Joking, just joking. But Pavel, I'll go out with my last thought around the hockey history. Why don't you go ahead and just give us your last thought here for tonight?
Oh, I apologize to our viewers tonight for the technical difficulties. It does happen from time to time, but we try to tinker those things out so that you can join us on every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can follow us on X at hockey_2 or at Revenev. We're always talking, communicating, sharing, discussing hockey, being respectful. We're on YouTube. We've got articles all the time up, whether it's Grant Cummings running about the Boston Bruins or myself discussing my weekly updates. I got to get some up at the end of the night tonight. And our former guests that have been on the show. It's been a great show tonight again. Sorry to Jamie Baskow for not being able to attend. We're looking forward to having him on again to talk all things Flyers. The season starts essentially next week, Evan, in 6 days. I'm excited. It's going to be a blast. There's a lot of storylines to watch this year. There's still a lot of uncertainty. And just in 1 week alone, when we were talking last week, how much news had happened. And all of a sudden, you got Luke Hughes signed. You got McTavish signed. You've got Kirill Kaprizov signed. It's just things happen so fast in this world, and we do our best to bring it all to you. But that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. So, and guys, you can go, again, check out our X feeds. We have a lot going on there that is not on our Facebook. Our Facebook's more of the generic sets. If you're looking at joining, we're always looking at expanding our Two Guys team. We need a lot of guys working media, helping run some of our social media, helping build different pieces. So we are looking to expand our team to be able to keep up on top of stuff. You say, well, what do we get out of this? Number one, you get a voice, you get an opportunity. Maybe you want to write, maybe you want to be behind the scenes. You got some information. We have some new people going to be joining us this year. I have Jaydlin Spooner, who was a former University U Sports goaltender for Lancers out in Ontario. She is going to be with us on Goaltender Nation, which is a new segment that we're hosting this year. So it'll be like a 10-minute segment, and we're going to be picking goalies. And when there's trades upcoming or things along that line, as well as he's been with us as a former guest. He's been with me on the last year's draft show. So we are going to be adding to our Revs Top 15 as a special guest, Jordan Robert, this year. So he's going to be back doing some different stuff, as well as we're going to continue, as Pavel said, we have a whole bunch of we have different guests from different places with different work. We have media content guy from Chicago that we're going to be able to connect and bring on. So again, little piece by piece as we continue, guys. We appreciate you joining on and helping us with everything. So with that said, guys, I'm going to go into the last segment of the night because I want to share something that happened on this day in history. All right, I just kind of want to cover on October 1st, 1999. Now, think of the significance. This is the great one. There was a date that was etched forever in NHL lore. On October 1st, the Edmonton Oilers honored Wayne Gretzky in a way that hockey world would never forget. They raised his jersey, number 99, into the rafters of what was then called the Skyreach Center. Now, it was the culmination, essentially, of his storied career. The great one, of course, had just retired earlier in the spring. But when he returned home, he was not just a player, but, guys, he was an icon, even though he finished in New York. The arena was electric at Skyreach. Emotion, a sellout crowd. They were buzzing. And back then, the sellout crowds, you're right, that was a different thing at that point in time. They were not as good of a team. So past teammates, coaches, figures, they all came together, and they gave him a 5-minute standing ovation. Never again has there ever been a 5-minute standing ovation for any player, including the great Ovechkin. Now, whether or not you think that is due or not due is beside the point. but it was a declaration that 99 would never again be worn in Edmonton. But the next year, interesting enough, the NHL officially retired number 99 league-wide, and nobody could ever wear it. It's the only jersey league-wide that nobody can wear the number 99. And I'd just like to finish this off, because not just mentioning this date in history, but about the great one. Now, the guy seemed perfect, all his goals, all his assists, his 4 Stanley Cups, but off the ice, what was he like? Like, what was Wayne really like, Pawel? Let's just say he had his moments. So there was a moment, and this was one of the stories that I love the most about Wayne Gretzky, when him, Michael Jordan of basketball, and Charles Barkley of basketball, that you would think that Wayne would have been good under pressure, but they went out golfing on the golf course, and things don't always go smooth, as a lot of us know when we're golfing. And so he lined up for a drive. It looked like a beautiful swing. Whack! He hits the ball, and the ball went straight sideways, is what they said. And it actually hit a guy in the gallery, just dropped him right to the ground. Total chaos. Jordan and Barkley, of course, they're doubled over. They're laughing. Gretzky's, he's all embarrassed, red face. So he heads over, talks to the guy that is kind of on. He's apologizing. And for the next amount, I don't know what amount of time, 15 minutes, half an hour, he's signing autographs, giving this guy memorabilia and stuff. And Gretzky, on his own words, says, "I wasn't great at golf, but I can tell you one thing: my slap shot never put a fan in the hospital like his golf club did that day." So yeah, so it was quite the story that you guys would only find in hockey history.
That's a great story. I was going to say that guy, if he didn't get hit, I don't know where he got specifically hit by Wayne Gretzky, but hopefully he didn't get hit in the head so that he could remember the moment that it was Wayne Gretzky that hit him.
Yeah,
But
yeah, exactly.
that was a phenomenal hockey history story. Thank you so much for sharing. That's the end of our show tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Join us on Twitter/X. We love hearing from you guys. Any final thoughts before we take it off and end the show?
Hey, apologize for the preseason jitters, but we're going to be back next week with an episode 5 of our 41 episode season. So, as we say every week, in the meantime and in between time, keep your stick.
Keep your sticks on the ice. Be safe. Cheers.
Cheers.